When you're selling a luxury home in the North Shore, there's one decision that quietly determines everything else, and that's who you choose to represent you. Not the photos, not the marketing, not even the price. At this level, who you hire sets the tone for how your home is positioned, how leverage is created, and how protected you feel throughout the entire process, from now to closing. And yet, this is the part most sellers don't realize the weight of until they're already in it. Because on the surface, many luxury agents look the same. They're polished, they're confident, they've sold expensive homes before, but selling a luxury home is not just about selling, it's about representation. I want to start with a story that explains what I mean about that. I once had a seller choose me over other luxury agents, not because I promised the highest price, not because I had the flashiest presentation, but because I genuinely loved her home the way she did. I spoke about it with care. I noticed the details that mattered to her. I understood what made the home special beyond just square footage or finishes. And that mattered to her more than she even expected. It might sound obvious, but it's not. If you want to be the chosen agent, you should be complimentary about the home you're representing in an authentic way. Not hype and not exaggeration, but respect. Because at the luxury level, a home is not just an asset, it's an investment. And often, it's a very emotional one. Loving the home does not mean being unrealistic about the price. It means understanding what actually makes it valuable and protecting that value from the very beginning. And that's where most agent interviews miss the point. Sellers sit down with 2 or 3 agents. They hear similar marketing plans, similar pricing opinions, similar confidence. And they're left trying to choose based on feeling or familiarity or who sounds the most certain. But certainty in the first meeting is easy. The real differences between agents show up later, after the launch, after the feedback comes in from buyers and agents, after the market answers back. That's why sophisticated sellers start asking better questions. Not how much do you think I can get, but questions like these. How will you price my home strategically to cover leverage, not just list it? This question matters more than most sellers realize because pricing is not a number, it's a strategy. There is a difference between a list price and market value and the leveraging of the price. Market value is defined very simply. On any given day, what is a buyer willing to pay for a home? And that changes. But leverage and leverage price is about how demand is created and confirmed. Any agent can pull the comps. We all have the access to the MLS. Any agent can give you an opinion. Far fewer can explain how they will test that opinion without burning your listing. Luxury pricing requires reading signals, buyer behavior, agent behavior, early showing patterns. It requires understanding pricing bands, not just price points. It requires knowing when quiet interest needs to turn into visible competition. And it requires discipline, because overpricing early does more damage in luxury homes than most sellers would expect. This is where private market strategies can play a role. It's a tool we use. We adjusted the furniture layout, softened the photography, and slightly changed how the home was described online. No price reduction, no panic. Showings picked back up because we listened early instead of waiting and eating up market time. Strong marketing isn't static, it's responsive, not as a hiding place, but as a way to gather information without consequences. And it's also where on-market exposure becomes powerful when it's timed correctly. Pricing should never be a one-time decision. It should be a process, and the right agent can explain that process clearly. The second question smart luxury sellers ask is this: what is your specific marketing plan for a home like mine, and where will it be seen? This question is not about volume, it's about intention. Most agents will say they put the home on the MLS. They use professional photos. They market online. That's baseline. Sophisticated sellers are listening for whether the plan is tailored or templated. Is this marketing designed for this home, in this neighborhood, and this buyer? Or Is it the same playbook used for every listing? Marketing without positioning does not create leverage. Visibility alone does not create urgency. The story of the home matters. This is really important and one of my favorites. Who it's meant for matters. Where and how it's introduced to the market matters. And the agent-to-agent strategy matters more than most sellers realize because many luxury buyers are represented. They rely on agents to surface opportunities, interpret value, and signal seriousness. Here's another question sellers don't always realize they should ask. What are we protecting in this deal? There's something important for the seller. Is it price, timing, certainty, solid deal? Is it privacy? I worked with a seller who didn't need the absolute highest number, but they needed a clean, predictable closing. They chose an offer that was slightly lower, but had stronger terms, fewer contingencies, and a buyer who is ready to move forward. That decision reduced stress, eliminated renegotiation risk, and got them to the closing smoothly. The strongest deal isn't always the loudest one, it's the one that aligns with your real priorities. Now, the third question, and this is the one almost no sellers think to ask until it's too late. If my home doesn't sell in the first 30 days, what's your plan and how will you advise me? This question reveals everything because the first 30 days are critical. That's when your home has the strongest attention, its cleanest perception, its highest leverage. When a home is not positioned correctly in the beginning, market time gets eaten up, and it's very hard to get that new to market energy back. This is why early decisions matter so much. Sometimes the hardest conversations I have are with sellers who've done everything right for themselves. They've lived in the home for years, they've invested in high-end systems, thoughtful upgrades, and beautiful finishes. And here's the reality. The market doesn't always give dollar for dollar credit for effort. I've seen homes with custom cabinetry, premium mechanicals, and smart systems, things that absolutely matter, but buyers don't always assign value the same way sellers do. That doesn't mean those investments were mistakes. It means our job is to translate them correctly. We shift how we tell the story, who we target, and how expectations are set. So the home isn't competing on the wrong terms, not effort. This is also where communication becomes incredibly important. You and your agent will be connecting often during the marketing period through feedback, through adjustments, through decision points. If communication styles don't align, stress builds quickly. There's a question sellers rarely ask out loud, but it matters more than people think. How are we going to communicate during this process, and does that style work for me? Do I prefer text? Do I prefer Instagram message? Or maybe it's the old phone, okay? Some sellers want weekly strategy calls and written summaries. Others want quick text and only major updates. Neither is right or wrong. What matters is alignment because during the marketing phase, we're connecting often. Pricing decisions, feedback, interpretation, and offer strategy all require real-time communication. When communication styles match, decisions get easier and trust stays strong. That's part of choosing the right representative for your investment. And remember, your agent is not just selling a house, they are representing a major investment of yours. When the market pushes back, you want guidance, not panic, not pressure, and not silence. The real test of an agent is not the launch, it's how they advise you when things don't go perfectly. There are always little details to manage because not every luxury home sells immediately. And how that moment is handled can protect or destroy leverage. This is why I encourage sellers to think differently about choosing an agent. Look at philosophy, not promises. Look at process, not personality. Ask how decisions are made when the market answers back. Ask how pricing is confirmed, not just suggested. Ask how communication will work when things feel uncomfortable. Because at this level, the right agent doesn't just sell your home, they protect your leverage. They protect your time, and they protect your peace of mind. There is no single right strategy for every luxury home. There's only the right sequence. First impressions is a one-time asset. One thing sellers don't get back is the first impression. I've seen homes come to market just slightly off pricing, positioning, or timing, and while we can adjust later, the urgency is never quite the same. Market time gets used up quickly, and buyers notice. That's why we're so deliberate before a home ever goes live, because that initial launch window is a one-time asset. And when it's done right, it creates leverage. A plan that evolves as information comes in. A strategy that balances privacy and leverage. Sometimes the home sells quietly. Sometimes quiet exposure sets up a very strong launch. Both outcomes can be wins when the strategy is intentional. If you're a North Shore seller thinking about making a move, my advice is simple. Slow down the decision of who you hire. Ask better questions. Listen for how an agent thinks, not just what they say. Because when representation is right, everything else becomes clearer. And the best luxury sales don't feel rushed, they feel calm, controlled, and well thought out.